Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. So on today's video we will be discussing a very important function in Excel, which is the Xlookup function. The Xlookup function overcomes all the limitations to VLOOKUP and index match. For example, the Xlookup function can look to the left of the primary key as well. It is also able to support column insertion or deletion. So if you insert a particular column or delete a particular column from the data, the Xlookup function will not break while the VLOOKUP function breaks. It is able to find the last occurrence of the data, so it can read the data from the bottom and give you the last occurrence of the primary key that you are looking up for. In addition to that, it also uses the approximate match as the default parameter, so you need not to specify it every time while applying the function, which we do usually in the VLOOKUP function and index matches function. The Xlookup function is able to return the range of cells. That is, it is able to return more than 2 columns or 3 columns as specified in the return array while applying the Xlookup function, which is not so in the case with VLOOKUPs and index matches. Similarly, the Xlookup function is also able to handle errors very efficiently. So you need not to use if NAs or if error function with the Xlookup function, since the Xlookup function already has an optional parameter which caters to all this. If you are able to follow everything on this channel, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. With that said, let's get to the video. So Xlookup basically is a function to look up data from one table to the another. So if we go on to explore the parameters to Xlookup, so there are total 6 parameters to this function, and out of which the top 3 are mandatory for you to mention and the later 3 are optional. So I will be discussing all the 6 parameters in this video, so stay with me till the end. So let us suppose I just want the sales corresponding to every state in cell G2. So if I go on to apply Xlookup simply, I will simply type the Xlookup. I will give up the lookup value, which is Texas in my scenario, and then I will give up the lookup array into which it needs to find taxes. So that is column B, and then I will give the third parameter, which is the return array. So return array is basically I want the sales corresponding to uh, the state taxes. Once I'm done with that, I need not to mention the last 3 parameters as I told already, and I will then close the bracket and press enter. So now I have the sales, which is 36,400 worth of dollars for Texas, which is in row 3. So if I change this to, let's say, California, now I have $10,200 worth of sales. And similarly for Georgia, I have $8,100 of sales. So if I want to compare Xlookup with VLOOKUP, I will try to apply VLOOKUP on the same problem. So that we are aware that how powerful Xlookup is. So I'm simply applying VLOOKUP onto this data set, as I've already told in my previous videos. So this is how VLOOKUP will work in this scenario. And now we have same sales that we obtained using the Xlookup function. But in cases of VLOOKUP, if I go on to insert a particular column in the sheet, then VLOOKUP gets broke, but Xlookup functions very efficiently. So this is where Xlookup is better than VLOOKUP. The second application of Xlookup is that it can be used instead of an HLOOKUP or an horizontal lookup. So instead of using the horizontal lookup, we can simply use the Xlookup. So let us suppose I want to have the sales of a particular month. So what I will do is I will simply go to Xlookup. I will provide the lookup value. Then I will move on to the second parameter, which is I need to find the month value in this array. So I have supplied the parameter with that array, and then I need to mention the return array. So return array is basically I want to find out the sales corresponding to a particular month. So I am giving this array as the return array, and then I will simply close the brackets, and now I have the sale for June, which is 23,239. Simply put, if I change the month value, the value of sales also changes. The third application to Xlookup is to use Xlookup instead of the index match function. So instead of using the index match function, I will be using the Xlookup function. So for example, I have the monthly data for certain states, and these are the sales corresponding to every month and corresponding to each city. So, and let us suppose now here in cell K2, I want the sales of August month and Virginia state. So what I will do is I will simply use the Xlookup function. First of all, I will be looking up the month, and now I will supply the lookup array, which is column A, and then I will supply it with the return array. So in the return array, I will be again using the Xlookup function. So to use Xlookup instead of index match, we need to do the nesting of Xlookup. So basically, I'm using an Xlookup inside of an Xlookup. So what I will do is I will again type Xlookup, and this time around I will be mentioning the state as the lookup value. So the lookup array for the state would be these columns. So I would be looking up the name of state from column B to F. Once I'm done with that, I will then supply the return array. So return array in this scenario would be the sales value, since I want the sales corresponding to a particular month and a particular state. So once I'm done with that, I will close both the brackets and then press enter. So now I have the sales for August month and Virginia state, which is 60,855. So you can basically check that up. So for Virginia, this is the sale that we are referring to. So if I change the month, the value changes, and similarly on changing the state also, the value changes. The fourth application of Xlookup is that it can return multiple columns on just applying the function once. So what do I mean by that? So for example, I want the sales and profit values for a particular subcategory. So what I will do is I will simply apply the Xlookup function, and I will just apply the function once, and I will be getting both the sales and profit values from it. So this is the lookup value that I'm looking for, and lookup array is basically the array into which I would be looking up this machines subcategory. So the subcategory column is my lookup array. Once I'm done with that, I will be providing the return array. So the return array would be, since I want the Xlookup function to return both these columns, so instead of specifying just the one column in return array, I will be specifying both sales and profit. So once I'm done with that, I will just simply close the brackets, then press enter, and now I have the sales and profit for the subcategory machines in both the columns by just applying the function once. Similarly, I can have the sales and profit for chairs, similarly for fasteners. So let us suppose I want the values to the left of subcategory. So instead of just having the sales and profit, now I want the sales and category. So to do that using the Xlookup function, what I will do is I will be using the choose function in the return array parameter of the Xlookup function. So how will I do that? So I will simply type Xlookup and will supply the lookup value and then the lookup array, which is the subcategory column in my scenario. Once I'm done with that, I will be supplying the return array function, and I will be using the choose function in the return array parameter. This choose function allows me to, basically supply it with two columns in the return array, and that too which are not in a particular order. So I will just simply type 1 comma 2, and then I will provide the value that I want. So first I want sales, and then I want the category. So please be mindful of the fact that these ranges should be of equal length. So I am starting from cell C2 and then ending at cell 18. So all of these ranges should be of the same length. So once we are assured of that, I will just close the brackets. I will close the bracket for Xlookup as well, and then I will press enter button, and then I have the value of both sales and technology. Similarly, I can have the value for any subcategory. Another important feature of Xlookup is that we need not to use any if any function or if error function before the Xlookup function, since the Xlookup function already caters to this by its optional parameter, which is the if not found parameter that I will be illustrating in this feature. So for example, we have this subcategory which is not present in the subcategory column. So I would be looking up this subcategory in column B, and since this value is not present, I already know that. So I will be providing an if not found uh, parameter to this function, which is the fourth parameter and the optional parameter. So if in scenarios where it is not able to find the subcategory, I wanted to mention not found. And I will close the brackets. So now it says not found. So I need not to use any or if error function before the Xlookup function. Another very important feature of the Xlookup function is that the user can choose to read the data from the top or from the bottom, which is not the scenario in VLOOKUPs and index matches. So VLOOKUP and index matches gives us the first value that they match. But with Xlookup, I can choose whether I want to read the data from the top or the bottom. So how will I do that? So I will simply give the lookup value for category, and then the lookup array for this category would be the category column. Once I'm done with that, I will be giving the return array, which is sales in my scenario. And once I'm done with that, I will be skipping to the last parameter, the last optional parameter, which is search first to last or search last to first. So up till now, we were using the search first to last option, since it is the default option. If I would not specify this parameter, it will by default consider this parameter as 1. But since now I want to read from last to first, I will be simply giving it -1 as the parameter. Once I'm done with that, I will close the brackets and I'll press enter. So now it gives me 33,271 worth of sales, which is the last value for furniture, right? Simply put, if I use technology instead of furniture, it will give me the last value, which is 26312. So in this parameter, instead of -1, if I just use 1, so it will now give me the first value, which is 20289, and similar for furniture, which is 15034. Another very important feature to Xlookup is its ability to handle the approximate matches. So, for example, if I have values for phones multiple times, but these are not exactly phones, these are somewhat type of phones. So, it will look up these values in an approximate manner and give me the results. So, for example, if I just apply this Xlookup value and provide the lookup array as this one, and then the return array as sales, and now I will have to provide the second last parameter, which is the wildcard character match. So I will provide this as 2. By default, this is exact match in Xlookup, but if I want it to be the wildcard match, I will provide this parameter as 2. And once I'm done with that, I will close the brackets and press enter. So now it gives me the sales for phones, which is 2289. Since I have not specified any parameter from first to last or last to first, it is giving me the first value where it finds phone. So to apply this, we just need to be careful of one thing, which is the subcategory value should be inside these stars. Otherwise, the Xlookup function might not function properly. Another very important feature to the Xlookup is that it allows the user to look up a value which is larger or smaller than a particular lookup value that is being provided to the function. So what do I mean by that? So let me illustrate my point by just applying the Xlookup function to this sheet. So let us suppose I want to look up sales using this sales table, and I want to populate the commission for a particular salesperson who has done this much worth of sales. So what I will do is I will just provide the lookup value, and then I will provide the lookup array, which is this in my scenario. Since I am going to drag the formula down, so I will be locking the range of cells, and now I will provide the return array, and again I will be locking the range of cells. Once I'm done with that, I will skip the if not found parameter, and then I will move to this parameter which I was talking to about. So this is the parameter where if I specify -1, it will match me the next smaller item or the exact match, and otherwise if I specify 1, it will give me the larger item or the exact match. By default, this parameter is set as 0 or the exact match in the Xlookup function. So as of now, I will select the next smaller item. Once I'm done with that, I will close the brackets, and now I get the 30% commission as my answer. If I drag the formula down, I will be seeing these commission levels. So what you will notice is, let's say for example, I have Rachel. So Rachel has done 10,200 worth of sales, and for 10,000 sales, the commission should be 10%. So it is giving me the next smaller range, which I specified in the third parameter to this function. And similarly, if I specify instead of -1, I just specify 1, which gives me the next larger item, right? This one. So in that scenario, it will give me 15%. Since the next larger is 20,000, so it will now give me commission as 15%. So if I drag this formula for every record, the value will change. Values will change, and since we do not have any value further than 50,000, it is giving me NA. So this is a very important feature to Xlookup as well. That brings us to the end of today's episode. I have placed the link to the Excel file which I have used in the video in the description box below, so you can check that out. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon in the next video.